What's up everyone, it's Dusty Gogoat. Welcome back to my headcanon. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will explore the concepts of past and future Pokemon. These special creatures will be known as Paradox Pokémon. You can imagine these forms as regional Pokemon that only exist in a fixed state of time, past or future. At least 10 Paradox Pokémon have been confirmed to be in Scarlet and Violet, and just like regional forms, I believe Game Freak will continue to create new Paradox Pokémon throughout the years. So let's take a look at some forms that we could see in future titles. So this first design is of a Proto Slowpoke, a Slowpoke that exists back in time. Alessava076 dubbed these creations Proto and Neo forms. Slowpoke is a pretty iconic Pokemon. I like that this design essentially just turns it this like dinosaur, like cartoon dinosaur green or blue color. Its features just, it gets this little sprout of hair, and it's got this like classic cartoon caveman jaw, right? You can even see it has these like spikes coming out of it. I guess those might be supposed to be like teeth. Similar to how Granbolt looks, where it's like teeth are part of its actual flesh. Kind of a weird design, but I think this is really cute. And the gimmick here is that back in time, instead of being bit by a Shelder, Slowpoke is attacked by one of the two Kanto fossil Pokemon. These Pokemon, the fossil Pokemon, exist back in time when this Slowpoke would also be roaming the planet. And so what we get is, if a Kabuto bites the tail of a Slowpoke, it evolves into this Proto Slowbro. Super powerful design. It's a water and fighting type. Slowbro uses its tail almost like a pickaxe, it looks like, but I imagine it uses its tail to just kind of like almost like a scythe or a sword. It's a really funny caveman looking design. And then also, if an Ammonite bites the head of a Proto Slowpoke, it evolves into this Proto Slowking, which is going to be water and dark type. I don't really know where the dark type comes in. I guess the dark type could be seen as a reflection of character. So Slowpoke loses its own willpower and then is acting out kind of viciously or insincerely like an evil Pokemon. But I love this. You can still see Ammonite's eyes just kind of like, they just engorge, get so big, and it's totally taken over the body, much like what we see with Galarian Slowking. Now we have another Kanto fossil Pokemon. It's Aerodactyl. To me, this is essentially the true form of Aerodactyl. What would it look like if it wasn't just revived, but what would it look like actually in its true form back in time? So this is the Paradox form of Aerodactyl. You can see it has this like a much more natural color to it. It no longer looks like stone, right? It doesn't have the color of a fossil. Instead, it looks like an actual being. You can actually see a little bit of the purple color still in the wings. It just looks more fleshy, and there's more details around its jaw. Its crest protrudes a little bit further, and it also has more details on the tail. I think this is really cool, and honestly, I think most fossil Pokemon, they should get Paradox forms. I want to see what they would look like in the past. I mean, they're fossil Pokemon, and the common fan theory, my headcanon, when you revive a fossil Pokemon, it always has the rock typing as a substitute for another type or as a leftover of when it was revived as a fossil. Based on this design alone, I could see it be like remaining flying rock type, but honestly, I always thought this thing should be flying dragon type, right? It's a dragon, it's Dragon-esque, it's a dinosaur, but it's also welled by a lot of dragon masters. So to see this as a dragon flying, that's what I would give it in its Proto form. Next we have this rock water type Lapras. Lapras has always been another Pokemon that feels like a fossil. It's based on like the Loch Ness Monster. It's based on these old creatures that used to roam the land. This is almost like if Lapras went extinct, we found a fossil of it and revived it, it would be water and rock type. The rock would be a substitute for its ice typing. An interesting design, originally made for the Cornera region. Again, all credit links are going to be in the description. Go check those out if you want to see even more Fakemon designs. Now we have a Paradox form for Fearow. This Fearow would have existed way back in time, and Fearow is one of my least favorite Pokemon. I just think it's so boring. It's one of the most inconsequential Gen 1 Pokemon. And it's so annoying. I keep finding shinies of it when I'd rather any other Pokemon. However, this design is very cool. It pretty much just takes it back to its roots, where it looks like this raptor type creature. I mean, dinosaurs, IRL, not in my headcanon, dinosaurs are closely linked to birds, to chickens. So to see this Pokemon kind of more like a raptor rather than a bird, really. It's a flightless bird, essentially. It's got all the same proportions and color scheme as a Fearow, but it just looks like a cool dinosaur. I would want to use this. I could see this being, I guess it's not going to be flying type. I think it could possibly be like normal dark or normal fighting. I would give this normal fighting type. You know, they could give it flying just because it is a bird and it has feathers, but it doesn't fly, so I don't know why you would do that. It also really reminds me of the Dodrio line. Okay, let's get away from Kanto. Now we have a Proto Crocodile. Crocodile is a really cool Pokemon from Generation 5, and to see it kind of get a type swap, but also see it what it would maybe look like back in the day. I like that it has a fishbone in its mouth to indicate that it would probably be like it's now a water-dwelling creature. I can see this being water ground or water dark type. Probably dark type, considering it's still just very menacing looking and it has those sunglasses. Now we have a really weird Pokemon. This is a Proto Smeargle. Modern day Smeargle uses paints, but this Paradox Smeargle is a ground type because it uses clay as an artistic medium. That's how it creates its art. To me, this makes sense. It's a more primitive form of artistry, but also I think of cave paintings. I like this design. You can also see on its belly, it has those like the kind of caveman cloth design. It's really just spotted, but it kind of gives you that idea. And it's a little bit more bushy instead of being this like clean cut modern dog. It just looks like a scruffy dog. This next design, I don't quite understand, but I love it. Magnemite has always been one of my favorite Pokemon. And I like that this design takes the electric steel type, very technological Magnemite line, puts it in the past, and now instead of modern day magnets, it has these natural magnetic rocks on its body. The design is super cool. It reminds me of Beldum, reminds me of Roly-Coly. It looks like something you would see in the Terminator movie. We've seen other Pokemon like Geodude and Nosepass take inspiration from natural magnetic rocks, and this Magnemite design is just like that, and I think it actually does a better job than both of those Pokemon. Sunflora has always been kind of a boring design, but this past form Paradox Sunflora is essentially what Sunflora should be, a dominating, massive, towering sunflower Pokemon with a little bit more detail. Like I said, Sunflora is a really boring design, and this thing is still kind of simple. You would think something going back in time would almost get more simplistic, but it hits the mark by actually making Sunflora interesting. And just like Alolan Executor, this thing would probably be grass and dragon, grass and fire, or maybe fire and dragon. A couple years back, there was an interview stating that Game Freak originally intended Raichu to evolve once more. This was before Pichu, and this lost Pokemon would have been called Gorochu. This artist took that design, that inspiration, and created this Paradox form of Raichu. This is something I totally could see happening. Raichu did get an Alolan form. It was a very bubbly and passive Pokemon. This Gorochu is a fighter. This would be electric and fighting type. I really want to see this. It would be so cool if they canonized Gorochu in some way. I think this would be an excellent opportunity for this thing to become real. Up next, we have a Proto Dragapult. I've really been wanting Generation 7 and 8 Pokemon to get new forms. It feels really unnatural to me that only, Gens 1 through 5 get a bulk of the forms. I understand logistically why they do that, but in lore, I think these Pokemon, if they travel to another region, if you take Dragapult, put it in Kanto, it should get a new form. And I would be thrilled if one of these Generation 8 Pokemon got a Paradox form. So this depiction of Dragapult kind of answers the what if Dragapult wasn't a ghost type. Original Dragapult is dragon and ghost type, so what would it have looked like if it was still alive? I think this design kind of nails it. It's a water-bound dragon and water type. It still has the little baby Dreepy up on its head. These would be like underwater torpedoes. Alestiva 076 made this awesome Proto Garchomp. I would love to see more pseudo Pokemon like Dragapult given these new forms. A Paradox Garchomp would be so cool, because Garchomp is another one of those Pokemon that has these lore-driven origins stating that it used to be something else. Garchomp is a ground and dragon type Pokemon, but it's based on a shark, which you would think would be water type, and its actual abilities as a dragon lets it fly through the air. So this depiction of a Paradox Garchomp in the past shows it as a true dragon shark And the typing here is a throwback to the beta design of Garchomp in Generation 4. 100% Dragon Water type is what this would be. And now we have a rivaling Paradox form that exists in the future where Garchomp becomes a full-blown Dragon and Flying type. It looks like a plane, like a massive jet engine plane. Really cool design. It actually reminds me of like Gigantamax Pokemon. A really cool design. I love how both of these, one kind of takes it back in time to become a water type, and then the future Paradox form leans into its flying abilities. Some more contrasting designs is we have these two Porygon forms. So the past Paradox form of Porygon is based on a wooden toy. I think this makes a lot of sense. Porygon, the entire line is based on an artificial Pokemon. So this would be essentially a wooden toy or wooden Pokemon coming to life. And I think this design's great. Make it grass type. It could be normal type, but maybe just make it a grass type considering it's made from plant material. I like that a lot. And then this future Porygon is amazing. The artist calls it Porygon C. The C standing for complete. So this would be the ultimate complete form of Porygon. In the future, they perfect it. Porygon is actually a real Pokemon. This Porygon finally becomes the bird it was always designed to be and becomes normal and flying type. All right, we've talked about so many past forms. Let's drill down and get into some more future forms because there are so many great ones here. Alestiva 076 has this amazing Neo Steelix. This Steelix is one of my favorites. And I love that this design essentially takes Steelix into the future. This thing reminds me of an electric underground transport machine rather than digging through the Earth's crust. This thing could be designed to transport humans or materials inside of its body, right? Like each section of its body is like a train or like a transport unit. It kind of reminds me, like it has its main face, but then also there's a couple orbs throughout its body that look like faces. My favorite incarnation of Steelix has always been its mega form where the diamonds within its body get so pressurized that they explode out of its steel hull. And this design just like it totally flips it on its head. I've never seen anything like this. Huge shout out to Alestiva. This has to be electric type, maybe electric steel, maybe electric. I don't even know. Like, it's so weird. Maybe just pure electric. Ooh, electric dragon for all that, like this aura, this like plasma around it. Yeah, make it electric dragon type. That'd be really cool. Speaking of electric type, you also have a Proto Joltik. This is going to be a bug and dark type. Back in the day, this Paradox form of Joltik, instead of feeding on electricity, it feeds on actual blood, which is kind of gross for Pokemon standards, but I think the design is really cool. It matches up with the real life inspiration. This is very cool. It's just like a simple little tweak of a Pokemon, but I like this very much. We also have this Paradox Aegislash. It's gonna be electric and ghost type rather than steel type. This is your standard, I guess you would call it like a lightsaber, right? It's your standard sci-fi weapon where in the future, rather than fighting with crude weapons, we use energy, lasers, stuff like that. This design is so cool. It still has both of its forms, the blade form and the shield form. I wonder what the types, or not the types, but like the stats would actually look like on this thing, because steel and ghost are so powerful together, both offensively and defensively. There's a lot of cool Aegislash forms based on like different types of swords, but for me, I mean, I'm a Star Wars guy, so this is taking the cake. Next, we have a steel and electric type Tyranitar. It reminds me of what, you know, Tyranitar is based on. Those massive city-ending kaiju. Very cool. This design feels a little bit empty, like they could have added something else to it. I like the energy that flows out of its body. Its metal plating is now replaced by this like what looks like an energy furnace. You can almost like see inside of its body. I think the design is missing a little bit. Like somehow the older design looks a little bit more complex than this future form. In the future, there are innovations, and with innovation comes simplicity. So maybe that's what that is a reference to. Again, one of my favorite Pokemon, Chandelure, gets this really cool future Paradox form. Really leaning into the technology aspect of this. It's going to be electric and ghost type. Rather than a candle-lit chandelier, the illumination is lit by electricity. Its face is even like dimly lit. I love the plume on its head to give the design a lot of like physical balance. The whole thing is just a big light bulb. It's simple, but It's really doing the trick for me. Hey, if you're still watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more Fakemon content. And I hope we can see more Paradox Pokemon throughout Generation 9 and into Generation 10. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck hunting.